The goal of men for the entire existence of the human race was to find a high value woman to give you children, to help you build a family, to help you run the household, to be the queen to your king, to be the feminine to your masculine within your empire. And now we have seemed to have forgotten it with all this feminism bullshit and women wanting to be boss babes and men being demasculated and feeling weak all the time. And now we have a situation where it's two ambiguously gendered people who are just slaves to the system trying to survive. That is the world we live in now. That doesn't mean that's how you need to live. And in fact, I encourage men not to live like that. You want to be a traditional man with traditional values. These values have been passed down through generations. It's ancestral wisdom. It is the way you are wired, it's the way you are. And to deny your basic biology is just an insult to yourself. So I want to tell you how you can become the kind of guy who can attract a high value woman. Your ability to find a high value woman is going to depend on your ability to attract, to charm, to sexually escalate, to create intimacy, to be able to keep a woman, to be able to give her an amazing experience and something that other guys can't offer her, and to be able to provide value to her. And you simply cannot do any of this if you are inexperienced with women. So I hear a lot of young guys just saying that they want to find a wife now, they want to get a long-term girlfriend, but really you might not have the experience or the skills necessary to deal with a baddie. And when I say baddie, I just mean a fucking good quality woman. I don't mean a boss babe, because fuck those bitches. You really don't need them in your life, honestly. So for you to be able to do that, you need to learn to first attract a woman. And you need to do that by approaching women. You should make it a daily habit to approach women in your day-to-day life, whether you're sitting on the train, whether you're taking the bus, whether you're waiting at the stop, whether you're walking down the street, whether you're in the gym, wherever you are. I am sure that there are many very attractive women that you have seen. And how many of them are making eye contact with you? A woman never just makes eye contact with you. It's always with a motive. Women have these amazing peripheral visions that when they look at you, they can look at you like this. They can literally be looking at you like this, and they know when guys are checking them out without having to look at the guys, simply because of their peripheral vision. So when a woman makes a conscious fucking effort to look you dead in the eyes, that is a signal saying, please approach me, right? And women suck at approaching. They will never be able to approach men the way men can approach women. It's simply unsexy to them, and they're extremely unskilled and unmotivated to do that. As a man, you don't get approached very much at all by women, but you have to approach women. Whereas a woman gets approached all the time. She doesn't see a necessity to do the approaching. In fact, the dating app Bumble has recently changed. It used to be that a woman needs to approach the guy and make the first move in 24 hours. Now they've changed it to be like any other dating platform, because women suck at it. If you've ever had Bumble and you matched with a girl and she's like, hey, how are you? Right? Whereas you have to be like creative and make all these pickup lines and be cocky, funny, and all this shit, right? Whereas they just do that because they're really lost and have no idea. So you need to make it a daily habit to approach women that you find attractive, and especially women that make eye contact with you, because it really is a numbers game. I tell this to all my guys: if you approach 100 women and 95 of them reject you, ghost you, say no, but 5 of them you were able to get their numbers, that is success. And if you're able to take one of those 5 on a date, that is success. It seems counterintuitive because you're doing all this other work and you're not getting any results. But really, if you just get that one date out of 100 women, that's already winning. But what does that mean? That means that over the course of 10 days, you should approach 10 women per day and probably get rejected by most of them. And out of those 10 days of approaching 10 women a day, getting rejected, you might get 5 numbers. Every other day, you might get a girl's number, right? That's amazing. That's incredible odds. And then out of those, you might only be able to get a date with one of those girls. But one date with a random girl in 10 days, that is success. So really, you have to shift your mindset. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get. So, hey, if you do this over the course of a year and you approach a bunch of women all the time, your success rate is going to go up to 20 dates. It's going to go up to 30 dates. It's going to go up to so much higher numbers when you learn the skills necessary. And I'm going to lay out some of those skills for you today. I myself used to be terrible with women throughout school. I used to see all of my friends and my peers, they used to get girls and go on cool, fun dates and hang out all together, and girls were interested in them. And I could see that these girls had the hots for these guys, and it was just so natural for them. Some of these guys were my best friends, but I was this very awkward kid. I had no social skills. I moved to England when I was very young, and I didn't develop the proper social skills. I was just this awkward foreign kid. I was a little bit creepy, a little bit desperate. And you go through puberty, you're fucking exploding sexually, and you don't know what to do with all these desires. And I was not very attractive or very popular with the girls at all. And this followed through very much into my early 20s, where I still was having trouble getting girls. And I mean, I'm a pretty attractive guy, and I always have been a pretty attractive guy. So my skills were so bad that I really just wasn't even able to approach girls. And sometimes what happens is, if you're a good looking guy, women expect more from you. They expect better skills than they would from somebody average looking. So if you are somebody who's worried about your looks, if you just become sharper, if you just become better, if you just develop those skills, you will have amazing opportunities. Amazing. Women might like an attractive guy, but it's not a deal breaker for them. You see so many hot, scolding women with fucking butt ugly men. And the only reason they're with them is because that guy is charming, that guy is skillful, that guy is a seducer, right? So for women, it's not important. Whereas you'll very, very rarely see a very attractive guy with a butters woman, because we men, we're visual. Women are cerebral. For them, they need to be ignited. For example, there was this study that was done, and it said that when a man sees an unattractive woman, in his brain, he gets a response of frustration and anger, like the same areas light up that would make him frustrated, right? So men are literally frustrated by unattractive women. Whereas for a woman, if she sees an unattractive man, nothing happens in her brain. There is no reaction of any sort in that direction, right? Which means that most men are invisible to women, and you have to approach them, and you have to show them that you're intelligent, that you're funny, that you're confident, that you are a high value man, right? And then they light up, and then they become attracted to you. And so be aware of that. If you're not attracting women on a day-to-day basis, you are just losing out, and you will never achieve greatness. Because to achieve greatness as a man, you need to find your feminine, the divine feminine counterpart to you. You cannot become a fully developed man if you don't have a fucking amazing high value woman by your side to be your queen, to help you build your empire. The sort of benefit that you get from having a quality woman by your side, she lifts you up, she believes in you, she supports you when you don't believe in yourself. And she gives you status. She literally elevates your status. If you have a good quality woman and other guys see you two together, and see how good she is, instantly your social status goes up, right? There's so many benefits to having a quality woman by your side. And honestly, that should be your goal. But to get that woman, you need to get good at approaching. So I'll give you a little story. I was living in Nice in the south of France for a little while, for some just under half a year. And I was running a hostel for the first little half of it. And every single evening that I would be finishing with work, I was working as an electrician as well, I would go out. I was in the center of the city. If you've ever been to Nice, you know there's like this big, big central area, the old town. And I would just walk out, and I would just start talking to girls. And I get rejected like all the time. But my whole point was to get rejected. I would go out, and I would just see a girl, and I'd be like, okay, let's go say some shit to her. Okay, let's go say some shit to her. Oh, she looked at me. Let's go say some shit to her. And that's my whole evening, was me alone, just talking to random girls in a foreign country. And when you do that enough, you get ballsy confidence, right? Honestly, the more you do this kind of stuff, the better. I then moved over to the foothills of the Alps. I was living in like a glamping kind of tent with a family of musicians. They were very successful people, but they had a bunch of young sons, and these guys, they weren't super experienced. So they were like, 18, 19, 20, 21. I don't remember their exact ages, but they were just young guys, kind of inexperienced. And I said, hey, do you guys want to go meet some girls? And they were like, what do you mean? And I said, do you want to go out and just talk to random girls? And they were like, whoa, isn't that weird? Aren't we gonna come off as creepy? Aren't we gonna be awkward? And they were a little bit apprehensive about it. I was like, come on, I'll show you how it's done. So we're walking down the street and I'm like, okay, watch this. I'll do it first and then we do it in turn and then you'll do it later and I'll show you how it's done. So I see a girl, very attractive. She's walking parallel to us. And so I start walking kind of parallel to her and we cross paths at a traffic light and we're standing there and I kind of look over at her. She kind of looks at me. I struck up a conversation. Yeah, I'm aloof. I'm not attached. I'm not desperate. I'm like, hey, like it's a nice day. What you doing? Whatever. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I struck up an opener. I managed to have a little bit of small talk. And when our paths were gonna like cross and we were gonna go different ways, I was like, hey, I'd love to carry on this conversation. Can I get your WhatsApp or like your number? And she was like, yeah, sure. So I'm getting this girl's number. She goes off, and I turn around, and these guys are just like we could do that. We can do that. That's like all these attractive girls we're walking by every single day that are just gorgeous and that are maybe making eye contact with us. Like they're available for us to date. Most guys don't realize this. Is if you develop this skill, it's so freaking powerful, right? And later on that night, those guys each got a number of just these hot, gorgeous, scolding girls. We went to a bar and they got this confidence because they could see that it was possible, right? And so, really, just developing your skills and getting better at exactly what you're doing is going to just supercharge your success with women. All right, let's talk technicals. So, the reason that you're afraid of approaching random women is because of something called approach anxiety. Approach anxiety. And you know what you feel. You feel an overwhelming feeling of being afraid of the rejection, of being afraid of being emotionally hurt, being afraid of somebody having a go at you, and nowadays being afraid of a woman filming you as a creep, posting you on the internet, whether it be in the gym or on the street. All of those things are just excuses to justify your feeling of approach anxiety, because the feeling of approach anxiety is very deeply rooted within you. It is a primal feeling. It is evolved. So think about it. If you're in a clan of 100 or 200 people and you go up to the wrong girl and you start talking to her, maybe she has a boyfriend, maybe she has a husband, maybe her guy comes up with his friends and fucking busts your head in with a rock because you're like, don't talk to my girl. Shit used to be like that, right? And so imagine you approach the wrong girl and she rejects you in a humiliating way, and now your status has fallen, and all of her friends, the other single young women in the tribe, now laugh at you because of your lowered social status. So the stakes used to be super high for you to approach and get rejected. It used to be dangerous. And so over, hundreds of thousands of years as social creatures, we evolved to be afraid of approaching random people because of these dangers. And so that feeling you get, it's primal, right? The way that you get rid of it is by reprogramming it. We live in a world of, our tribe is a global tribe of, 8 billion people, right? It's not the same thing. And most people are not violent or aggressive. And most people won't reject you. And so the more that you approach a girl, the more that you have these physical interactions, the more you're going to reprogram your brain and realize that it's not at all that scary. So there's a bunch of ways that you can go about this. So there is a warm approach. Warm approach is, say you go to a party, right? And there's a girl there from your friends group, or they somehow associate to you, or it's a girl at your workplace, or it's a girl from your school or your college or your university, or it's somebody from your circle, a friend of a friend, or whatever have you. That's warm approach. You should be doing that. That's the easiest of all, because they somehow are associated with you. They feel safe around you. They don't think you're a super creep because your social circles are tied in. So try to get their number, try to text them, try to have a conversation. But then there's cold approach. Cold approach is a girl that has no association to you. This could be a random girl at the gym that you've been looking at because she's wearing those fucking scrunchy pants and her ass just looks fire. This could be a random girl that you walk past on the street that just has this beautiful, elegant, and confident demeanor. This could be just a random girl you meet at a bookstore. This could be a random girl you meet at a conference, at some sort of an event. This is cold approach because they don't know you and you have to be cocky, funny, charming straight off the bat. This stuff is harder, but the benefit of it is huge. If you learn to cold approach women, your confidence and your skills and ability will skyrocket, so that when you have warm approach opportunities, they're going to be so much easier for you to deal with. Because if you can approach a random girl on the street and get her number, imagine how confident you're going to be by a girl who's already interested in you, or who already knows you a little bit, or who you already have some rapport with. It's just gets so much easier. And you have the option of approaching women in the day or in the night. So this is night game, day game, right? I prefer day game. I don't really like night game. I'm not a drinker. I don't really like loud music. I can't really communicate with a girl. A lot of girls that go out to clubs and bars, they usually host. They're usually just there to get laid. They're usually promiscuous women. I don't think they're high quality women, and those are not the kind of women that I want to approach. Those are not the kind of women I want to attract into my life. I'm not trying to be some sort of player. Well, in fact, I'm engaged right now, so I'm not doing any of that. I've already got my wifey. I've got a perfect high value woman. And now I just want to teach you guys the skills so you can get one of your own, because it has transformed my life and I'm beyond happy. And so, unless you're trying to be some sort of crazy player, I wouldn't even bother with night game, right? It's more hassle than it's worth. Women are getting so much more attention because they're dressed slutty, and you're going to be competing with a bunch of rich guys, a bunch of boisterous guys. So if you're somebody who I used to be, you may be a little socially awkward, you may be not super confident, you're maybe a bit of a nerdy, geeky guy, a bit timid, a bit passive, I don't recommend going out at night. I recommend you doing day game. And day game can be just like I said, in the middle of the street, public transport, in the gym. And what you want to do is you want to open girls. You want to become the kind of person who just talks to people. You want to become the kind of person who just compliments people randomly, right? Maybe there's a girl that you see and she has a nice dress. You can just walk up to her and just be like, hey, I love your dress. You look really elegant, super beautiful. I wish more girls dressed like you, right? And just fucking walk away. If you do that, imagine the impact that that's going to have on that girl. You've just made her day. She feels great. She feels happy. She feels positive. She's like, I chose this dress. I'm getting validated for it. Some random guy fucking complimented me. And you're not creepy or awkward because you walked away. Because you're not trying to get anything from her. Women have this insane intuition that they can pick up if you want something from them. And if you do, they don't trust you. Even if there's nothing logically that you're doing or saying that is making you untrustworthy or creepy or desperate, they pick that shit up on a fucking quantum level. They're super emotionally tuned in. And they might not be able to justify it, but they have a deep gut feeling that you're not a good guy. And so, really, you should never be attached to the situation. You should just be that kind of guy who compliments people. And this is men and women. It shouldn't just be women. You should just be a chatty, fun guy who opens people. Like, you're speaking with a cashier at a store, have a little bit of small talk. Be like, hey, love, when are you finishing work today? Long day, huh? How are you doing? You know, you doing good? You work a lot here? Cool. Well, thank you so much for helping me. I hope you have a lovely day, right? Have a little bit of small talk. See a guy with some nice shoes or a nice briefcase, you'd be like, that is a beautiful briefcase. I love the leather on it. You look super classy, dude. Respect, right? And fucking walk away. You've just made that guy's day. Like, he's gonna be so over happy. He's gonna be thinking about that shit for a week at least. And you would just walk away. The more you develop that kind of skill of just talking to random people, the more your approach anxiety is going to go down, because you realize that most people are actually very positive and very pleasant. So you want to just be opening everyone. You just want to be a chatty, fun person, right? You want to gain something called social momentum, because you're doing it so much that it becomes really easy. And you want to have maybe some canned openers, right? Canned openers are things that you can prepare yourself, where you can use it repeatedly, right? Some guys use the directional opener, right? Some guys walk up to a random girl and they're like, hey, do you know how to get to so and so? Do you know where the best cafe is around here? And then you can latch off from that, and you can be like, what coffee do you recommend? Like, what are you doing? You know, where are you going? Or whatever, right? Just start a conversation from that. You can have a canned opener where you actually prepare a real thing. You can be like, hey, I'm just getting people's opinion. Could you tell me like X or Y? You see those guys doing interviews on the street. If you have a camera with you and a microphone or whatever, girls are gonna love that shit, because they all want to be like famous and clout and status. And so they're gonna be a lot more careful, and they're gonna be a lot more intuitive to speak to you. But even if you just walk up to random girls on the street and you're like, hey, I'm just trying to get some people's opinion on this. Could you tell me X or Y? You know, whatever the question might be. Do you like chicken wings or chicken thighs? You know, And it's a fun question. It's like a fucking random question. It's a fun question. And they're like, all girls like chicken. So they can be like, I like chicken wings. And you can be like, but why is that? Everybody's saying they like chicken wings. Why do you like chicken wings more? And it's like if she's receptive to it, she'll just have a little bit more of a conversation. And then maybe you can pivot onto a different subject because you want to get off that subject as soon as possible. You don't want to just talk to a girl about chicken all day and then the conversation goes sour because if you can't make it flow, eventually it's going to get a little awkward. The great thing is that when a conversation that you've opened gets awkward, you can just be like, thank you so much, and you can walk away. The way that you want to structure your mindset is you're approaching these women to get rejected. You're not approaching these women to get laid. Don't even think that. You should never be thinking that. You're not approaching these girls to even get their number. You're not even thinking that. You're approaching these girls to be able to speak with them and to get rejected and to see how long you can speak to them before you get rejected. Because if your mentality is that you're going to get rejected, suddenly you're not attached to the outcome. Suddenly you don't seem desperate. And suddenly, if you get rejected and you've managed to speak to her, even just say something to her, it's a win. You've won because you got rejected. That was your whole goal of speaking to the girl. But if you don't get rejected, you just spoke to her and maybe got her number, or you maybe had a great conversation. That's an even bigger win. So if you reframe it like that, you can't lose. You simply cannot lose. Now you want to ask yourself, where do you find girls to approach? And this is really what kind of girl do you want to attract? Personally, I love gyms. I love doing it in the gym because the gym is a place where a woman is dedicated to improving herself. It's a woman that is working on her physique. Usually they're very, very hot. And a lot of the time, these women are so hot that other men are afraid to talk to them. Like you hear this a lot, but it's actually so true. I've had a lot of friends who are very attractive women, and they all tell me the same thing. They're like, honestly, these guys are too afraid to talk to me. They're intimidated by me. And usually these really hot girls, a lot of the time, they're actually socially awkward. It's so funny, right? Like the hottest girls are usually socially awkward and isolated. And so it's a lot easier to actually speak with them. And when a girl dresses up to go to the gym and she wears all these scrunchy pants and all this like matching color shit, they say they don't want to get approached. They say they don't want attention, but that's a load of shit because what women say and what women are and what they do is very different because sometimes they're delulu. Sometimes they're delusional to themselves, right? They don't understand because they don't get turned on by just looking at somebody most of the time, by looking at somebody's dressing or whatever. They get turned on cerebrally, and so they just project that onto everyone else. And they think that a man doesn't get turned on just by looking at her, right? Whereas we obviously do. And so if a girl is dressed like that, she wants the attention. She wants to get approached. And you'd be surprised if you just go up to her and you just say some stuff like, I love your form. You're doing really amazing exercises. I see you in here all the time. You are here more than me, right? Like, that's respect. And just fist bump her, right? You're not expecting anything in return. Just be like, respect. And then leave, right? You don't need to be waiting there for when it gets awkward. If you wait too long and it gets a little awkward and you keep trying, now you're creepy. Now you're a weird guy. But if you just make a nice comment, you make a compliment, and then you leave, and then maybe later on, in a week or same week in a few days, you go up to her again and you're like, hey, what are you working today? And she says some shit and you say some stuff and you're like, hey, I didn't quite catch your name. What was your name? And just be like, hey, Amelia, pleasure to meet you. All right, have a great workout, and walk away again. You do that like 4 or 5 times. On that fifth time, you can walk up to her and you can have a genuine conversation because she's now built this relationship with you. She has a track record of your interactions with her. And so you can now come up to her and be like, hey, I never asked you, what do you actually do? Like, what do you do with your life? Like, what are you up to? Like, what are some of your hobbies or whatever, right? Find a way to phrase that in a good way. And then maybe make her laugh a little bit, crack a joke, maybe be a little bit flirty and just be like, whatever, right? Maybe you touch her on the shoulder, which is kino, which we'll talk about a little bit later in other videos. But there's ways to escalate that relationship from interaction to a date to more, right? Gyms are great. You want to think about like public transport is another really, really great one. On the street is another really great one. Maybe at a bookstore, maybe at an arcade, maybe at any place where you think that the type of woman you want to attract is going to be. That's another great one. Or just attractive women. The mall, for example. The mall on the streets, that's a great one, right? Because these girls, they go to the mall. There's a plethora of them in a very concentrated area. And like I said, if 95% of them reject you, but 5% of them are receptive. Approaching 100 women, you'll get about 5 receptive ones. And if there's 100 beautiful women in the mall, you can just bam, 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 bam. And that's what it's about. It's a numbers game. Maybe you want to talk to some beautiful girls camping. Maybe you want to go on a cool camping trip, stay on a nice campsite where there's a lot of young people. Maybe you want to go to work at a hostel in a foreign country in the summertime. Honestly, there's no better place to get laid than at a hostel if you're working there. It's so easy and everyone's having fun. Everyone's there to meet young people. There'll be videos about this kind of stuff later. I've done this a bunch of times all over Europe. And so this is something we'll talk about in the future. But for now, just think about it. Where can you meet these girls? Maybe on a hike. Where do you see these girls? And that's where you should go. And if you really can't push through this resistance, this feeling of fear, approach anxiety, and go and do it, you're a little bitch and you never will succeed, because this is step number one, motherfuckers. If you can't do this simple step one, you will never be successful. If you're not man enough to talk to random girls and to be brave and courageous and overcome that feeling of fear enough to start talking to random girls, you're done for, my dude. And if you want to be the best that you can be, you will try time and time and time and time again until you succeed, because that is what a man is. He will fucking hit his head against the wall until he breaks through into the other room, because that's what you need to be doing. That is success in life. It's failure, 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 feelings of inadequacy, feelings of inferiority, feelings of being a little bitch, failure, 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 bam, success. That's what that looks like. So you need to be doing that. The reason girls don't like desperate guys, because there's an element of pre-selection. And if you're a desperate guy, that communicates to her that you don't get girls. You don't get girls. That's why you're so desperate for it. Because if you got a bunch of girls, if you had a bunch of options, you wouldn't be desperate, right? You'd be kind of like aloof. You'd be kind of like, well, whatever, right? Like, good day to you. I don't care that you rejected me. But if you're desperate and you're like, oh my God, she rejected me. No, please, 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 please. She picks up on that energy on a subconscious spiritual level. And she now thinks that, oh, this is a desperate guy that other girls don't want. And that means there are things about him and red flags that he has that I'm going to find out in the future, but I'm not going to want to know, right? And this is all happening on a subconscious level. And so be unattached to the outcome. Don't be desperate. If a woman sees that you are attractive to other women, she suddenly becomes attracted to you because she's like, these women know something I don't. This is why married men get targeted so hard by women. This is why women will sleep with their friends' boyfriends, because they're an attractive person subjectively to them, because they happen to be able to hold down a relationship. So be aware of that. You could even get a friend. If you have some friends who are like-minded, this is huge. Get a friend and do this with them. Get a friend and be like, let's go approach random women in the street. And if they're not sure, if they're like, nah, that's awkward, I don't want to do that, fuck that guy. You don't want to mess with that guy, okay? He's a little bitch and he will never achieve true greatness. You want to find a guy who's willing to suffer with you, who's willing to do hard things for a common goal. If you have a friend in your life who also likes girls and who wants to get dates but isn't able to, just like yourself, team up with him and go out together, right? And then you guys can be in your little group of a safe space. And then every now and then you branch out, you talk to that girl. You branch out, you talk to the other girl. And then you come back into your safe space where you feel good and you laugh about it, right? Because you've just overcome a fear together. You've just challenged yourself. And it's like there's a competitive aspect that switches on. If you want to be a successful man, you want to be competitive. You want to develop that competitive persona. And competing with your best friend or competing with a good friend, a wingman, is just going to do you wonders. So get a friend, both agree, today we're going to go out and talk to 5 girls each and just egg each other on, celebrate the successes, push each other to greatness. So finding a friend, finding a wingman can make this process a lot easier. But really what you need to do after this video is you need to go out and you need to talk to that girl in your circle that's made eye contact with you. That girl, maybe she goes to your gym. Maybe you see her on the train. Maybe she walks down the same street as you, right? Maybe she's in your friend circle, right? And she's made eye contact and you feel like she might be approachable. She might be interested, but you're fucking hella attracted to her. Go talk to her. Go talk to her. That's step number 1, is just talking to girls. I can't teach you anything else until you break through the resistance and start approaching women on a day-to-day basis. After a while, it will become addictive. It will become a habit. And you will just have Endless dates, endless dates forever. And you will have a choice of high value women that you can choose to then pursue and date more. And when you become that person, you will start attracting women to you. You will start attracting sexual abundance. It will just be easy. And then you can choose a high value queen to build your empire with. Thank you so much.